Sweet, welcome back. I'm Empty, and we're going to be doing the cockpit setup for the C-130. Um, if you watch my previous videos, we're going to be doing a flight from Cobaleti here, and we'll pull up the nav map in here. We're here. Sweet. So, we're going to be taking off from Cobaleti, doing a single airdrop bundle into Sanaki. So we're going to be taking off from here, flying up north, then coming in for a run-in to Sanaki, dropping a bundle, and then flying an LZ back. We're going to be doing my checklist flows. We already got the we already got the power-up checklist done in our previous video, and so this is how the aircraft should be when you come out as a pilot for them. So at this point, as you can see, cockpit setup is not a thing that's on here. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. It's going to be a lot of C and IMU information in order to do this. So let's get started. First things first, I have my own personal checklist, not to be confused with ASC's. And these are ones that I made. So here's going to be the things that we're going to focus on for the cockpit setup. HUD. We're going to get our HUD down and in position. We're going to go ahead and get the brightness turned up on it. And I always select TAC and nav. TAC is going to give you guidance or timing information in the bottom left, and nav is going to give you that pointer information down here, right? And your course information. Sweet. So now that that's set, we can then go through and set up our screens in PFD. Next thing, so first things first, we usually don't fly around because your HUD shows everything that your PFD is displaying, so we usually don't fly around with that. What we do is we throw either the nav radar page there, or what I like to do in DCS, because the radar isn't as great, we'll throw the TAS there. But for now, we're going to treat it real. We're going to go here. So as you can tell, we do have a route already planned, and that's from me making it in the mission editor. We will go through on how to, I will clear it, zeroize it, and we'll show you how to rebuild it in Suite. Going through here, nav select, we're going to make sure we're on iNav, which is going to be our find the actual line instead of any external course information stuff. For PFD, we're going to make sure I'm on 1. Copilot should be on 2 on everything, and yeah, that's set. For engines, we're not going to really need this too much today. And then you, in addition to the nav radar, which I have shown here, you have a digimap, which we can throw on 2 momentarily, which looks exactly like kind of the other maps. You also have TAS, which I will throw on 3 temporarily. And this one's a little weird where you have to actually click over. So TAS is going to be terrain information. So yellow is just below your aircraft. Red is at or above your aircraft. So that's what you'll run into if you don't climb. Blue is water. And green or gray is below you. Obviously, it's thinking we're a little bit higher than we are. We can go ahead and turn that one off, and we'll turn off this one. So other than that, you have your engines, which this is your engine status display, and then you have your system status display. Your engine is going to give you your engine horsepower, your engine temperature, and your engine speed in a percentage. And then you have your propeller speed and your fuel flow. And then you have your oil. You have your gas, or sorry, not your gas. You have your gearbox oil pressure, which that's going to be for your prop, and then you have your engine, which is going to be for your engine oil pressure, the temps, and then the quantity. Then you have your ACOS, which is going to be your advisory, cautions, and warning system. So this is going to give you all of the alert information. So right now it's telling us that anti-skid's off, and primarily that's because we have emergency brake is on. You don't have anti-skid when you have emergency brake on. The ramp and door, cargo door and ramp are open. And then we have a mission data card not installed and a maintenance data card installed, or not installed. That's going to be over there, and those aren't really a DCS. We're going to use those in DCS. So how we get rid of those is we're going to go ACOS, we're going to go store, and then down to advisories. We're going to line down to those. We're going to hit store message, hit menu back to them, and see how we clean that up. These other ones should clear themselves as we go. So now you have your system status displays. So you have your electrical, which is going to be your generators for each engine. You have your APU generator and then what it's powering currently in the current DC volt. You have your hydraulic system, which right now we don't have any hydraulics on at all. We're not getting any. And then you have your oil cooler flap settings. So that's this up here. Right now, it's not showing anything because we don't necessarily have power to it. And then also the fact that they're in auto. And then we have our fuel quantity. So we have a fuel quantity gauge here, and then we have one. And then you have your LOX, which is your liquid oxygen as well. Sweet. That's running through the HDDs. So now, and the ACOS. So as you can tell, we kind of already set up all of this here for the AMU portion. Ref mode, we'll get to setting that up after we get through the CNIMU information. So first things first, for the CNIMU, what we're going to do is the initialization was already done. And so now we're going to go into our route. So route here, and we can see that we're going to Uniform Golf 5 X-Ray, which is Coboletti. It has us taking off at runway 07, but like I said, we're going to clear all this out and redo it just to reset. In addition, we can look at real quick the legs page. It's all the waypoints that we already set up in there before, but we're going to just remember what we called these points prior to, and we're just going to redo them here in a little bit. So first things first, we're going to go back here. We're going to zeroize. We're going to come over here to the Route 1. All these, we're just going to clear out all this information here, and in Route 2 as well. We're going to verify and clear that out. Sweet. So now if we go to the route, it's all cleared. So we're going to go to Uniform Golf 5 X-Ray, and you don't have to actually clear it out like I did. I'm just doing that. We're going to come back and land here. We're doing that in order to just start clean to show you guys from scratch. So now that we did that, we got our origin and we have our destination in. Now we're going to go to departures. Departure, we're going to take off runway 25 for this one. So we have that in there. Now we're going to go back to route. Now we're going to come back here to depart and arrival. We're not arriving back at our origin. We want to go to destination. Destination is going to be right here. We're going to select runway 25. But, like I said, we wanted to fly an LZ, or a self-contained approach, back into runway 25 here. So what we're going to do is go back to this page, and you see where this says LZ1. We're going to hit LZ1. We're going to select 25. And we know, based off of some planning purposes, or we can check real quick. So we can cargo menu, and we can go nav, and we have Coboletti right here, and we can see that Coboletti is 43 feet. So we're going to type in 443 into touchdown zone elevation. We're going to go ahead and put a height above 300 feet. So we're going to go 340 free in here. And we're going to leave this as a precision approach. It already has our course in to land on the runway. And then we can put in our threshold, which again was 43 feet. And our glide slope altitude, we're going to say we're going to be at 1500 for landing. Sweet. And then our SD is our slowdown point, and then our transition point to more accurate guidance, we're going to put it 7. The TP can't be prior to the SD though. So we usually do 7 as the default for those. Sweet. So then that set up our LZ function. So if we come back and look at this page, now we have our DP set in here, or our LZ set in here with those previous points in there. So that gets our landing data information, and that's all from that route page. So now that we're done with the route page is done. Now we can go to this next page, and we have our approach in here, but let's go ahead and set that one DZ. So DZSEN was that one, so we're going to throw that there, and we have that point there. But we also wanted to do, so you can set this up on here, or you can come over here to set this. Our first point was that departure point though, so let's go ahead and put DEP for departure and throw that in above. And then we had our IPDZ, we're going to throw that here. And then we had our IP to our LZ here. We're going to throw that in this discontinuity. And so yeah, we have this discontinuity between that IP and that LZ. So what we're going to do is we're going to delete that. Now, if you didn't have these as custom data points in the system, so either they're not preloaded or you didn't set up that route on the mission editor, you can go ahead and make these points. So you can come in here and go, I want to name a point empty. Empty. Okay? So then I'm going to throw this here. Oh, now it wants me to define it. So I want to define this point. So if we come over here, let's define this point as 10 miles directly north of, 10 miles directly north of the Cobaleti Fort backend. So KBL. So we can go KBL. We're going to go north, so 360 at 10. And boom, now we have that defined. And now that we're back on our legs page, I can go EMPTI and throw it right here. Boom. And see how it does this weird thing now. But I'm going to delete that because we don't want that actually there, but that's one way to make the custom data point. The other way is to actually come in here and you can go to your custom data and make it here, and you can see all the other points that we've made. Sweet. So that gets our entire route set up here. Next thing that we have to do in order to finish this is set up our airdrop. So what we're going to do first though is select our cargo. So we're going to say we're going to drop we're going to drop 4 pallets or 4 cargo CDSs. Okay, and we're going to slide we're going to we're going to shift these all the way back. There. Sweet. So we got 4, and we need to make sure we set them up. This is going to be carp 1 for both these, for all these. Okay, and you see the type of chute that we have, and these are 882 pounds each. So, first things first is let's get our weight and balance set up correctly. So, here's your weight and balance over here. So this is more of a loadmaster function, but you're going to make sure that your fuel is correct. So it's reading correct. Operating weight is what it is, and so we're going to check out our load page. So we're going to have 3,527, and then for this page, what we're going to do is we're going to take the center, so 885. And actually, because we're dropping this, we're going to double slash, so 885. So if you weren't dropping it, you won't double slash. Sweet. So now that's set up. Our weight and balance is now set up. Now we can go ahead and build our carp. So our carp, we're going to build first. We're going to go carp init. This is going to be on the DZSEN, right, point. And we're going to say that the leading edge to trailing edge of this, we're going to say is 1,000 feet or 1,000 yards. Okay? And we're going to say that the leading edge to PI, so our point of impact, is 500, so half that. Okay? SD and TP, we're going to treat the same as we do the LZ function, and we're going to do 7 for that slowdown and transition point. Now our run-in, what we want to check is, I mentioned that we're going to do the run-in for this one on the same course as the runway, just so then we're even here. So we're just going to look here, and we're going to see that the heading is 095 true heading. So 095 true. So then we're going to do 095T. And then next, okay, we're doing, what type of chutes we're doing? We're doing that 12 delta. Go back to this page and throw that there. We're doing a CDS, one stage. We're probably going to be at 140 for this one. Okay, we're doing that. So, flight station for this one, our aft flight station, the aft edge is going to be 1005 for a flight station. And that's going to calculate our release point. And then we're going to have, we have 882. We have 4 of those. So that weight's a little bit off, but oh well, it's fine. Sweet. So our payload page is set up. Now our winds. Now we made a default mission here, so you can get this from the briefing page. And we have 0 winds at altitude, and the overall temp is 20. So we can put in what, 360 at 0 for the winds, 360, 0, and that'll give us 0 ballistic winds. And then at altitude, we're going to be pretty low, so we're just going to go up by 1,000 feet, and that's going to be 18. Okay, so now we can set in our information. We have 43 in here. The DZ elevation cannot be lower than the PI elevation or the same altitude. It should be able to be the same altitude. Now min drop altitude, we're going to put in at 500. So then that's going to put us at 544. So we're going to round this up to 600, just so then we have an even altitude to fly. And then we have our ballistics information and timing for exit. So it'll take 4.1 seconds for the exit time and all that for it to leave the aircraft. Then we can go to our cart prog, and we can see that because there's no wind, we don't have any left or right, and we're getting 524 short. So prior to the actual PI point, that's where our carp's going to be. So last thing that we need to do, since we did this, is now tie it. So we're going to go DZSEN, and we're going to come over here, MFP, and we're going to select that carp point. And then now if we go to our legs, now we have that information here, and you can see we have the information there for that. Sweet. So that gets us through setting up our route, our legs. Now we need to do our perf. So if we come back here, we have to get our performance data. So you can, from your route page, you could have gotten through it on the route page, but we're going to come here and we're going to go performance. Okay, for the C-130, we're not going to mess with any of this on the right because it's all being sensed for the fuel and then what's in our weight and balance page. But on the right side, we'll have our trip fuel. We'll have our fixed amount. So we want to land with at least 6,000 pounds. So we're going to put a 6 there. We don't want any variation, so we're going to put 0. And extra fuel, we want to know exactly how much fuel, so we're not going to put that we're going to subtract any extra fuel. Okay, for the performance data, we're going to climb. We got our standard climb out here. We need to put our drag index, which is 10 in here. And then for the climb data, we're going to go 8,500 pounds for our climb performance fuel flow. And then transition altitude is 18,000. We're going to put that in there. Okay. Now, this page, we're only planning to go up to maybe 2,000 feet. So we're going to stay low, 2,000 feet. And we're going to go 220. We're going to keep it kind of slow and easy. And fuel flow, standard fuel flow that we plan to burn is 5,000 for the C-130. Now, the temp deviation. So you could go with your outside air temperature, which we know is 20. So we can throw that there instead, which gives us our temp dev of 9. But if you really wanted to know, you can go nav control and come over here to the second page to your DADs, and you can see that actually our temp dev is saying that it's 5 for our temp dev with the outside air temperature as 20. So we can come back here to our cruise and we can put 5 here. Changes it to that. Sweet. Before we go to the next page, we can go to our optimal cruise, and we can see you have your high-speed cruise. So this is if you wanted to travel as fast as possible, what is your performance going to be? So let's say we're going to be at 2,000 and we want to see what this is. So 2,000 feet, and we have a drag index of 10, and we have that 5 for our temp dev. So there's our speed and our fuel flows. For our long-range cruise, this is us trying to get somewhere, trying to get the furthest that we can with conserving fuel. Here's what it is. And then we do our endurance. So we're going to put 10,000 in here for our standard endurance and see what we get. And so that's if we're trying to conserve fuel to the max extent possible for the longest time possible. And the additional thing that you can get from this information is to see what your performance is at if you lose an engine. So our cruise with 4 is 35,000. Our service ceiling with 3 engines is 30,000, and then we can see even the 3-engine cruise and the 2-engine service ceiling here, and what speed we can expect. So that's some other performance data. And then last but not least, you have to do your perf descent. So we're going to be staying pretty low the entire time, so it's not really going to matter that much, but we're going to put 3-degree descent in here, and that's our performance data. So that got us through the performance data, the route. Now we can then do, and we did some of the MC index with our weight and balance. Next thing that we got to do is our told. So remember, the airfield is Uniform Golf 5 X-ray, which for some odd reason I don't have X bound, and that's runway 25. And it pulls the information here for the runway. So we're going to put a slope of 0. Runway is dry, so that's going to be 23. If it was wet, it's 12. Winds, still that 360 at 0. And we know the outside air temperature is 20. And then the baro is 29er2. And that gets our standard. And then we can set our perf and nit information. We're going to do a normal takeoff, normal bleeds with ATCS on and anti-skid on and 4 reverse. So for our takeoff data, and I'll explain this shortly, or I'll explain it now actually. So we're expecting 4,700 for the horsepower. Our minimum ground control speed is 88 knots in order for us to have deflection and without using the nose wheel. Our VMCA 3 engine is 94 knots and our VMCA 2 engine is 172. So VMCA is going to be your air control or airborne main control speed. Our max recommended crosswind is 35 knots. We have 0 crosswind. For our refusal, so that's when we're going to decide if we're going to take it or not, is going to be 101 knots, which is actually coincides with our rotate point of 101 knots. Our climb obstacle clearance is 117 knots, and our best climb is 150. Now, the one thing that isn't shown in here is the flaps up safety speed, which you're going to add to that 35 knots. Sorry. Sweet. Next page. Your critical field length. So this is where you can either take off or stop if you lose an engine at the worst point, and that's 2,700 or basically 2,800 feet. So almost you could round it to 3,000 feet of runway, which we have 7,500. So we're good. And then this is going to be our climb performance. So just 200 feet per nautical mile is a standard climb performance, and we're just going to put that to our actual climb altitude of 2,000 feet. And we're going to put 0 here for the screen height because that's standard. So we can make it with the current gross weights, and then we're going to say there's no obstacles, so 0 and 0. And sweet. So that gets us our told information. So remember how we said 101 and 117 in there? So now what we can do is go to our V speeds and set 101 and 117 here. And that sets our V speeds in the HUD. See now how we have 117 there. So, sweet. That is our told information. In addition to that other told information that we have, we can also get, once we have that program, we can have our landing information here as well. Which is, now that I realized it, if we look at our told information, we're not pulling the correct gross weight, because if we go to our actual gross weight, we're 124,000 pounds. So what that's going to pull is from our perf. So if we go to our perf weight page, we can see that right now it's not calculating, it's got the wrong bow weight in here. So if we go into here, see how that's 86.2. Oops. Typing up here. So then we go 86.2. Update that. Now that's a closer and correct gross weight. So now if we go to our takeoff data, we need to fat finger this in order to get it to reset and pull. And then all you got to do is hit delete and clear it. It should have pulled the new one, but what we'll do is we'll come back to our perf page, see what it is, 124.4, and now we're going to then type in that 124.4 into here. And now, if we come to our told data, 125, and sorry, it's 25 knots. So we'll be at 180, or sorry, 148 for our flaps up safety speed for this, and we need to update that. So 107, 123. 123. Sweet. So now that's all set up. Last things that we need to do now that our told is set, we can just continue down this way. I like to come back up here to the comm. So now that the comm is set, we make sure our radios are set correctly. We can put in the TACANs. So if you remember, we can look at this nav page, and we can see that it's 31 X-ray for this. We can just type in 31 X-ray, or check this out. We can then do a ABL, and we can throw this in here. Sorry, because that's a TACAN only. And then, sorry, that's TSK, but you can do KBL initially for this KBL. And then, if you want, you can also set up, so like this is the ILS glide slope for that, so you could throw that in there as well. But we're not going to worry about that right now. And right now, if you look, it actually paired to the ILS here at Coboletti. And the way that that pairing works is if you go in here to the information for the VOR, you can select pairing on or off for that. Sweet. IFF, we're going to go ahead and make sure that we are on all this and it's powered on. I'm going to go to 1 to make sure that's up and running. Mode 2, Mode 1, Mode 4 on as well. And then that's our additional information. And so our IFF is set. So that runs through COM, NAV, IFF, NAV control. And then last but not least is we can go through and just power on our defensive systems. And so you're going to power on, and that's going to turn on everything. You'll get an additional CMDS fail. The reason why is you got to then turn on your system back here for your actual panel. And we're going to go and leave it in standby and see how that cleared. And so you've got your master on, which then kicks on your RWR, your CMDS, and your IRCM as well. And so that's a IR countermeasure system. That's in addition. So RWR, you can look at additional information here. For the CMDS, you can see that we armed these two. We don't have anything for these. And if we turn them on, it'll say squib fail since we don't have those in. And it talks about what program we're in for the different countermeasure systems. And then you have your IRCM power or your MWS on is just on, and you get the audio visual, and then IRCM as well, operating left or right. And then this back to the MC index. So there's our defensive systems is set. Index page was set. You can do additional things in the index page. So some additional things that you can do. If you go to the next page, you got your nav inhibit. You have your fix. So this is going to be like your bullseye. So we can go ahead and put bull, because that's the default one, if I remember right. I don't know why that's not one, but it was bull. But yeah, so you can set your bullseye in here once you have that fix set. In addition, you can do your mark list cursor targets, which we'll talk about when it comes to the nav radar. And then you can also have additional custom data and timers in there, and nav data. In the mission section, or sorry, mission index, you can also add in tac plots, which will put rings and circles around different things on there as well. But that covers everything for the cockpit setup. It's a lot, and it's a lot of CNIMU functionality. And I kind of only partially cover it. We can go more in depth on carp building for different styles of carps later on, but that gives you a basic functionality for airdrops. Have a good one.